All right, welcome everybody. We begin with the latest on the battle in Los Angeles, a battle being fought in the courts, in Congress, in the media, and on the streets of Los Angeles. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and we're looking at several live shots from downtown Los Angeles. In this main big live shot you can see here, a group of protesters have just broken through lines and gotten onto the 101 freeway. For folks who are familiar with the Los Angeles area, in downtown LA, where the federal courthouse is, several federal buildings are, right alongside it is the 101 freeway. Protesters managed to shut off the 101 freeway over the weekend. They have done so again just now. As you can see there, they've been swarming on the freeway. Police officers are chasing them down, but clearly this is a chaotic situation there. In addition, there was also just several arrests right outside the federal detention center. The LAPD threw flashbangs and then launched pepper balls into the crowd after they said that objects were thrown at them. In just a moment, we're going to go live to our reporters on the ground. But here is the very latest. 4,700 military troops and Marines are now activated in the area over the objections of California's Governor Gavin Newsom. Earlier today, the governor filed an emergency motion calling on a federal judge to immediately stop the militarization of Los Angeles, as he accuses President Trump of acting like a, quote, tyrant. That judge set a hearing for Thursday, and I'll speak in just a few moments with California's Attorney General directly about that order and about California's lawsuit against the Trump administration. President Trump spoke from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, just a few hours ago, where the commander-in-chief rallied the troops there over the situation in California.
Generations of Army heroes did not shed their blood on distant shores only to watch our country be destroyed by invasion and third world lawlessness here at home, like is happening in California. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not let that happen. What you're witnessing in California is a full-blown assault on peace, on public order, and on national sovereignty carried out by rioters bearing foreign flags with the aim of continuing a foreign invasion of our country. We're not going to let that happen.
We learned today that the military deployment to Los Angeles of those 700 Marines and those 4,000 National Guardsmen will cost taxpayers around $134 million. It came out during a heated hearing on Capitol Hill in which Pentagon Secretary Pete Hegseth strongly defended the president's decision to mobilize the troops.
How long will the deployment last?
We stated very publicly that it's 60 days because we want to ensure that those rioters, looters, and thugs on the other side assaulting our police officers know that we're not going anywhere. We're here to maintain the peace on behalf of law enforcement officers in Los Angeles, which Gavin Newsom won't do.
The LAPD and the Sheriff's Department did manage to break up last night's demonstrations. They arrested more than 100 people, most of them for failure to disperse and looting. Let's begin now with NewsNation's Nancy Liu, who's live for us in downtown LA, outside that federal building where all the action has been, where National Guard troops are lined up. Nancy, what are you seeing right now?
We're seeing a lot of LAPD, Elizabeth, and we haven't gotten arrest numbers yet, but behind me is probably 50 to 60 people who've been detained. They're all against that wall of that building, and they are surrounded by police. Earlier, as you mentioned, there was a dispersal order. There was tear gas, or there was a pepper spray. There was non-lethal weapons used and flashbangs. And some people didn't disperse, so people were taken into custody. Some of them have, gone to different areas of downtown, but a significant police presence remains here outside the Federal Detention Center, where directly in front is the National Guard. So the police have been trying to make sure that the federal agencies have been able to do their work. But Elizabeth, it certainly seems like the city, LAPD, reacting much faster today, trying to get a handle on things, knowing that the nation and even the world has an eye on LA, since we have the FIFA World Cup coming to Los Angeles next year, and we have the Olympic Games coming in 2028. So an eye is on LA, and this is what much of the world is seeing. A lot of unrest in downtown. Elizabeth?
All right, Nancy Liu, thank you. Let's go now to NewsNation's Alex Capriello. He's live outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles. It's another federal property where troops are standing guard. Alex, what's happening there?
Well, actually, Elizabeth, I'm right here on the 101 freeway where protesters just shut it down. You can see LAPD, 24 officers are now holding ground. They've secured this freeway. It is now free access from what I could tell, although one police cruiser is still holding up traffic heading eastbound, I believe. You can see at least 2 people that have been arrested that were out there on the freeway at one point or another. They got their hands cuffed behind their backs. Looks like the police are using zip ties. Many of these LAPD officers, when they were trying to control this crowd and get them off the freeway, had to use their batons or their billy clubs, actually fully pulling them out. You can see them at the ready right now.
All right, I think we might have lost Alex's live shot. As you can understand, this is a lot of run-and-go journalism on the spot there. But as he was saying, we had, just in a few moments, protesters surge onto the 101 freeway, blocking traffic. And very, very quickly, New York police swooping in, shutting that mass protest on the 101 freeway down and getting those protesters off, and in many cases arresting them. The 101 freeway already quickly back up and open, according to what Alex Kapp was just reporting. We'll check back in with him when we get our live shot with him reestablished. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says there's a quick way for the federal government to actually help everything calm down in her city. She said it's to stop the immigration raids.
On Thursday of last week, Los Angeles was peaceful. There was nothing going on here that warranted the federal intervention that took place the very next day. The real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids.
Here to respond is Tricia McLaughlin, Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security. Tricia, great to have you here. I think I know your answer, but I'll give you a chance to respond to what Mayor Bass just said, calling on the Trump administration to stop the ICE raids in L.A.
Elizabeth, thanks for having me. We will not be deterred. We will not be intimidated by these violent rioters, and we will keep going. We will double down. In the last 72 hours, we have continued to do these ICE enforcement operations. And Elizabeth, some of the people we've picked up, 5 gang members, a child rapist, murderers, convicted felons, people who have been repeatedly entering the country. We're going to keep on going, and we won't be deterred. So Mayor Bass, she's doing a real disservice not only to the citizens of California, but also those illegal immigrants in her community, because what she could be telling them is that they can leave now, use the CBP Home app, take the $1,000 that the U.S. taxpayer is so generously offering, take the free flight, self-deport, and then maybe you will have the opportunity to return the legal right way. But if you do not self-deport, you cannot return. We will arrest you and we will deport you. But that would be the responsible leadership, not vilifying ICE, not demonizing them. We've seen a 413% increase in assaults against ICE enforcement officers. They're simply doing their job. They're carrying out the law. So that's our message to Mayor Bass. We will not back down. We will not be deterred, and these ICE operations will continue.
President Trump says, quote, L.A. was under siege before we got there, and that we, quote, will not allow the city to be invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy. Is that what you think is going on in L.A. right now?
I think the president is exactly right, Elizabeth. Let's flash back to Friday, what we were seeing. There were 1,000 protesters who were surrounding our ICE enforcement officers in a federal building. They were completely outnumbered. They were being pummeled by rocks. They were being pummeled by other objects. They were being attacked, assaulted, as these rioters were also burning American flags as they hoisted foreign flags outside of this federal facility. So I think, thank God, President Trump had the moral courage as well as the foresight to bring in additional law enforcement resources to keep the people of Los Angeles safe.
Well, he didn't bring in law enforcement resources. He brought in the military. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said on Capitol Hill today that these thousands of troops that are in Los Angeles to, quote, help law enforcement maintain law and order. But the chief of police in L.A. says he doesn't need help from the military. He said this in a news conference very, very late last night, if not actually early this morning. He said that he and the police department were given no formal notification that the Marines were coming, and that you are making his job harder because of significant logistical and operational challenges.
Well, the chief of police also said that things were out of control. So he can't have it both ways. Unfortunately, on Friday, when our ICE enforcement officers were being pummeled and being attacked by these rioters, it took the LAPD 2 hours to respond. We need law and order, we need peace, and that's what President Trump is bringing by calling in the National Guard and calling in the Marines. And I will say further, as I said before, we will not back down on these ICE enforcement operations. If you are in this country illegally, if you are a criminal illegal alien, we will find you and we will arrest you. That includes in Los Angeles, and our National Guard is helping us make sure we can maintain those operations by protecting our ICE enforcement officers.
We were just showing a live shot, a control room, if we can go back to it. This live shot up here, Tricia, is actually from Chicago. We know that these protests are now spreading to other cities, not just Chicago, but Dallas, Atlanta, San Francisco. President Trump said today, quote, they're going to be met with equal or greater force than what you've done in Los Angeles. What does that look like? Are you going to be sending the Marines and the National Guard into those cities as well?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president, and I won't get ahead of the Pentagon or the Defense Secretary. But what I will say, Elizabeth, is unfortunately this is a natural escalation of the rhetoric of our politicians. We've seen for weeks now, whether it be Tim Walz at a commencement speech or AOC fundraising, or other politicians, including Karen Bass, calling our ICE enforcement officers Nazis, like the Gestapo. If you liken them to Nazis, you can guarantee that you are giving these violent rioters a free pass to go after them, to attack them, and that is a big part of the reason we are seeing the images we are today. It's unacceptable. We need to restore law and order, not just in Los Angeles, but let's pray that we see the force in these other cities so that we can make sure that there is peace there as well.
As you know, these protests in Los Angeles were sparked by the ICE raids that were rounding up migrant day workers from Home Depot and a clothing store in the area. The Wall Street Journal and Axios are both reporting that last week, Stephen Miller and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, quote, demanded that ICE agents seek to arrest 3,000 people a day, triple the number that they were, and that people at the meeting felt they would be fired if they did not make enough arrests. Can you comment on that reporting and on this order that went out to round up and to increase these arrests of illegal immigrants?
Well, I have to disagree with your characterization as day workers. These individuals are in this country illegally, and I think it's wrong that the companies will exploit cheap foreign labor that's here illegally. It leads to dangerous working conditions and also leads to human and labor trafficking. So to act like these are just people who are here for the day is absolutely false. They're here illegally in the country. But further, I will say we are delivering on the mandate that the American people gave us. President Trump's poll numbers on his handling of illegal immigration vastly show that the American people are behind him. We will continue to carry out the law, and these protesters be damned.
The polls show that like 55% of Americans like President Trump's goals on immigration and on cracking down on illegal immigration. But 56% don't like the way he's doing it. Is part of this, I mean, I'm not really sure what people thought they were voting for. President Trump pledged to have the biggest deportation in American history. He's delivering on that pledge right now. Is it that people don't like what they're seeing and are reacting to that?
Elizabeth, maybe we're looking at different polls, because the ones I'm saying, the American people are well behind President Trump and Secretary Noem.
I'm looking at the poll from CBS that came out yesterday.
Of this country, there's been 50. Then I'm looking at Insider Edition polls, so we're looking at different polls. But the fact of the matter remains, there are 15 to 20 million people illegally in this country, Elizabeth. President Trump guaranteed, he made a promise on the campaign trail that he would deliver mass deportations, and that is exactly what we are doing. We are getting these criminal illegal aliens out of this country, and I quite frankly find it very concerning that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and the ACLU are calling for the illegal immigrants that we have arrested in LA to be allowed out. The American people should know who we've arrested. It's MS-13 gang members. It is Trende Aragua. It is child rapists. It is arsonists. It is murderers. It is truly the worst of the worst people, and we will continue, not just in Los Angeles, but around the country, to arrest these people and make America's streets safer. Right. Tricia, I think that part of the controversy is that some of those people are obviously being rounded up and arrested, and everybody's happy about that. There are other people who are being arrested who have no criminal record other than being here illegally, and that's what's sparking a lot of the protests. Tricia, thank you. Well, it's about 75% of those who have been arrested are actually have prior convictions, so I'm happy to present the facts too. Okay. I've just seen data that shows it's actually slightly more than half, but it's still a majority. Tricia McLaughlin, thanks for coming on the show. Thank you. Despite what it sounds like, you've got a little hoarse voice. I appreciate you powering through. We're working hard here at DHS. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let's get some reaction now from NewsNation correspondent-at-large Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, great to have you here as always.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
What do you make of all of this? We're watching now as things devolve in Los Angeles. Now we're looking at this live shot in Chicago, another mass protest, reports it's spreading to other cities. You know, we just heard Tricia McLaughlin from DHS repeatedly characterize all of these arrests as being of criminal, you know, illegal immigrants who are criminals, who are rapists and murderers and predators.
Well, let me just say initially that anyone who throws anything at a cop, anyone who hits a cop, anyone who takes a piece of concrete and throws it at a cop, I think immediately the president is right. A year in jail sounds right to me. Yep. It could be zero tolerance for violence against cops. Having said that, I must say that listening to the spokeswoman from DHS, there was an alternate reality. We had Allie Bradley on earlier, an excellent reporter from Nebraska showing ICE agents arresting obvious meatpacking workers, or in L.A., wasn't it a big box store, Home Depot? The immigrants were working in the Home Depot. I mean, it's preposterous for the administration to pretend that the people maybe the people they are targeting are evil people. The people they are rounding up, however, as I understand it, one of the initial cases in this, one of the incendiary things that ignited some of what we've seen was the detention and arrest of a woman who was dropping her 4-year-old off at daycare. So we have to, Los Angeles is, as you know, Elizabeth, is almost 50% Hispanic. Mm-hmm. This is a population that has been there for generations. These people come and go across that border, and they have, with the varying political winds blowing, over all of this time, over centuries, really. And when a Hispanic woman is arrested dropping her 4-year-old off at a daycare, that ignites a certain emotion that is entirely predictable. Let me put it that way. Maybe not justified in some cosmic or law enforcement sense, but certainly predictable. It is something that is so deeply offensive. And why are we having this big raid? Why declare war on this population in this heavily Latino town? Why not do it in a discreet way where you do target criminals, where indeed you do some investigation? Maybe it's harder, maybe it's more expensive, but it's not only more humane, but it's more, it will have more of an effect on the problem you're seeking to solve, which is undocumented immigration. Trump's done a great job on the border. They've sealed the border, basically. Encounters on the border way down. Now they say they want to go after. Imagine having a quota, that the DHS officer has to have a quota. If that story is true, that they have to have 3,000 a day, they have to round them up. What is this? It's like the quota on escaped slaves from the South in the Civil War. It is absolutely offensive. I also say that I hate seeing the Mexican flag in these demonstrations. If you're here in America, you want to be in America, then at least have the decency to have the American flag flying. Don't put that in our face.
Yeah.
So that upsets me also. But there is no doubt but that the DHS Trump axis has bit off more than it can chew, and it has promised quotas that are deeply disturbing, that have very little to do with the problem that they're seeking to serve, that is to regulate and normalize and get control of the immigration situation in this country.
There seems to, there's an argument here, Geraldo, that this stage was set by the Democratic administration under then President Joe Biden. Its failure to have control over the immigration situation, over the wide open border. In other words, we had millions of people who came into this country illegally during the Biden administration, which set the stage for Trump running and winning on a pledge to stop this, to shut the border, to expel everybody here illegally. He point blank said he would do this. Part of me wonders why people are shocked now that he actually is doing that. Why is that? Why is there a disconnect between the percentage of people who like his goal, his policy, but don't like the way he's doing it?
Because the reality of rounding up human beings is not as easy as collecting chickens. People are, they cry out. Their husbands try to defend the wives. The mothers try to defend their children. This is very messy. This is humanity. But let me just say that I totally agree 100% with your assessment of what happened during the Biden administration on the southern border. That was tantamount to absolute gross negligence at the very best. Gross negligence of the worst kind. They ignored what was happening on the southern border. Why? If it had some nefarious political motivation, I doubt it. It was probably incompetence or laziness or other priorities. But President Biden will go down in history as the worst president ever in terms of dealing with immigration and migration.
All right.
But what we're seeing now is the reaction of normal, regular people, working people, people that do your house cleaning, people that take care of your baby, people that mow your lawn, people that build your roof. That's what you're seeing now. You're not seeing MS-13 and Tren de Agua and all these murderous thugs. If that was the true target of what DHS was after, we would all be standing ovation for them.
Okay.
Go get them, cops.
Yeah.
Go get the bad guys.
Yeah, everybody wants the bad guys out. The nannies and the grape pickers and the lawnmowers, I guess, not so much. Geraldo Rivera, always great to have you on the show, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right, coming up for us, ICE raids aren't just happening in California, as Geraldo just mentioned. Our Allie Bradley rode along with ICE during one of its biggest workplace enforcement operations under President Trump, and it all happened in the state of Nebraska. It is an exclusive firsthand look at the type of workplace raids that triggered these LA protests and riots you just saw. And later, he's a father, an Army vet, and now he's on the run, suspected of killing his 3 young daughters. But Travis Decker's ex-wife says he had no history of violence and was failed by a broken system. How will authorities bring him in, and how can America serve its veterans better? We know protesters in Los Angeles are demonstrating against ICE, arresting and deporting illegal immigrants at workplaces across that city. But what does an ICE operation actually look like? Usually we just see video shot from outside, ICE agents going in and coming out with those detainees. But far from Los Angeles, in Omaha, Nebraska, a huge raid just went down, and NewsNation was there to document it all. Our Allie Bradley joins me now. Allie, ICE agents say about 100 illegal immigrants were working at Glen Valley Foods. Were all of them arrested?
Yeah, Elizabeth, they were, and it was the biggest workplace enforcement operation in Nebraska under President Trump. And of course, there are those questions circulating with all of the activity that we're seeing in LA and across the country right now. People want to know how these operations are really playing out, how they're unfolding. And we were the only news crew there, and we wanted to give you a firsthand look at these ICE operations. Civil warrant in hand, ICE and its federal partners executed the largest workplace enforcement operation in Nebraska.
We did execute a civil search warrant here at this location for personnel from Glen Valley Foods that were using fake IDs, fraudulent IDs, or some type of combination of IDs that weren't real.
Roughly 100 individuals who ICE claims are here illegally were removed from their workplace. Many scattered when officials arrived.
There was plenty of places for folks to hide, so that slowed down our operation. But as of right now, I can report there's been no safety issues and everything is proceeding as planned.
Some were hiding in freezers that hit sub-zero temperatures. EMTs were on hand and checked nearly every individual out to ensure that they were okay. One man hid in a wall compartment and refused to come out, even with a canine on hand. Officers say that man pulled box cutters on agents. The district attorney tells us that he will be charged with assault on a federal officer. The owner of this company says that he used E-Verify, but many working for him were pulling the wool over his eyes by using the identities of U.S. citizens.
I don't understand why in the hell they would use false ID when they can, I think, get a visa.
Gary Rohr tells us that he essentially has to rehire his entire workforce, and he's worried about the business suffering.
We have customers that are counting on us
to
get our product out to them.
He is a victim at the end of the day, and together with our state, federal, and local partners, we've been able to make a difference, work with that company, teach them how to do this process better, safer.
Now, Elizabeth, Gary Rohr has been very cooperative with these federal agencies following that operation. As of right now, the business, they're not facing any charges. Elizabeth.
All right, Allie Bradley, thank you so much. Coming up for us, California's Attorney General joins me live as he and Governor Newsom sue the Trump administration, accusing them of trampling their state's sovereignty and deploying the military. Don't go anywhere. Late this afternoon, a federal judge in California denied Governor Gavin Newsom's emergency request to immediately block President Trump from using 4,700 National Guard troops and Marines in Los Angeles to help out with those immigration raids. But this legal fight is not over. The judge did set a hearing for Thursday. California's Attorney General wrote in part on social media today, quote, "The president is looking for any pretense to place military forces on American streets to intimidate those who disagree with him. It is illegal and dangerous. We're fighting to stop him." And he joins me now, California Attorney General Rob Bonta. Great to have you on the show. I just want to get your reaction to that federal judge this afternoon declining Governor Newsom's request for an immediate emergency order to stop President Trump, instead scheduling this hearing for Thursday. Is this a defeat?
Not at all. And it's been misreported as a denial. He didn't deny anything. He just scheduled a hearing for Thursday. So
right,
our
but the governor had asked him to rule by today and to issue an emergency order today.
Correct. And the people of the state of California, represented by me and the governor of California, we sued together. We requested emergency relief because of the irreparable harm and irreversible injury that we would suffer. There was a last-minute request by the federal government to give them 24 hours more so that they could submit their response to our request. And very reasonably, the judge accommodated that request and set a hearing on very shortened time for Thursday. So we see this as the status quo. Our request is in. The opposition from the federal government is coming. We'll get an order as early as Thursday. It's fully appropriate for a thoughtful judge to consider the arguments of the federal government in this case.
The Trump administration claims it's going to win this court challenge, that the president has every legal right to do what he did, send in the Guard and the Marines without your state's consent.
I believe that is their position and that they're very wrong on that position. There is law on this. This isn't about policy that we're trying to create as we go. There's existing law that governs what the president can do and can't do. The president has invoked a specific statute to call in the National Guard that he believes authorizes him to call in the National Guard, and that law requires that there be a rebellion. There's no rebellion. It requires that there be an invasion. There's no invasion. It also requires that the federal government not be able to execute federal law in the regular course. That doesn't exist either. It further requires that the governor provide consent to the request for the National Guard to come in, and that doesn't exist. So key elements in the existing federal law that the president relies on don't exist. They're going to have a very hard time opposing that. And so I know they think that they're going to win. We're pretty confident in our position, and that's why we have a judge to look at the law and facts and make a decision.
The president claims there's a rebellion going on. You know, we're on day 5 now of these protests that have, been, while our reporters on the ground have characterized them as largely peaceful, there have been pockets of real violence. We have had property destroyed, buildings being looted, police officers having firecrackers, and bottles and chunks of concrete thrown at them. These images are disturbing. You can at least concede that.
Of course, crime is disturbing, and fighting crime is what sheriff's departments and police departments do. They're fully equipped to handle it. It's the largest sheriff's department in the nation, the 3rd largest police department in the nation. They have great men and women, officers and resources to combat any crime that's occurring. I don't think anyone can credibly say that there's a rebellion in Los Angeles right now, or that there's an invasion in Los Angeles. I know that the president likes to use that word because that's the word that gives him more power. He wants to say there's a rebellion when there isn't one. He wants to say there's an insurrection when there isn't one. He wants to say there's an invasion or an emergency when there isn't one, because if there is one when there's not, but if there were, he would get more power, and he really wants the power that's at the other end of the law. But the facts matter, and the facts don't support him. The great men and women of law enforcement in Los Angeles have been able to clamp down on the violence that has accompanied the largely peaceful protests. When you have peaceful protests, you have agitators and those who use the cover of the protest to engage in unlawful conduct. It's wrong. They should be held accountable. They should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's largely been happening, and none of that was being done by the National Guard or the Marines. It was done by local law enforcement agencies, sheriffs, and hardworking members of the police departments who are getting the job done on the ground.
What impact has the arrival of the military had on what's going on in Los Angeles when it comes to these protests?
Yeah, I'll say California local law enforcement did not need any additional assistance from the National Guard or the Marines. Their presence is counterproductive. Their presence is unnecessary. Their presence only leads to inflame and provoke and escalate tensions. And perhaps that's what President Trump wants, unfortunately. But their presence has heightened tensions and been provocative and confrontational, and they haven't done anything at this point to create more calm and peace. Local law enforcement has done that, and I'm grateful that they have. I will say that it's very unfair, disrespectful, manipulative, and abusive of the president to treat the hardworking patriots, the public servants of the Marines and the National Guard as political pawns in his game. He left them without the National Guard without appropriate food, water, and accommodation. That's disrespectful. So they deserve better, and they don't deserve to be part of this political game by the president.
And you need to ask, what do you say to people who support President Trump and say, this is what we voted for. We elected him because he promised to deport all illegal aliens. This is what we wanted him to do. He promised to do it on the campaign trail. We voted for him, and now he's doing it.
I say the president may do a whole set of lawful things that are within his actual very broad and vast authority as president, but he can never do any unlawful thing. And you can't vote for the president to violate the Constitution. You can't vote for the president to break the law. That's not something you vote for. Complying with the Constitution and complying with the rule of law in the United States of America is uncompromisable and non-negotiable, not something that you can vote to happen.
So to be clear, you're taking issue with him calling up the National Guard and sending in the Marines, not on the actual ICE raids themselves.
100%. My job is to enforce the rule of law. The president can't do unlawful things. Calling in the National Guard and the Marines is unlawful. Lawfully enforcing federal immigration law is something that he may do. As long as it's done lawfully. He can't racially profile or violate Fourth Amendment rights or deprive people of access to an attorney. But if he does it lawfully, he may do that. So no legal quarrel with that. I have my policy differences, of course, but I don't go to court when I have political grievance, an ideological or policy difference. I go when the law has been broken, and that's why we've sued Trump. He's broken the law yet again, the 25th time in 20 weeks. He's a repeat offender when it comes to breaking the law.
Attorney General Rob Bonta of the great state of California, thank you, sir, for being with us. Really appreciate it.
My great honor. Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up for us. They found his dog, they found his truck, but where is Travis Decker? This is the father accused of killing his 3 young daughters, and he is still on the run. How authorities are hunting down a suspected killer with an alleged mental health issue and military training. And remember to download our NewsNation app for the latest news on the top stories of the night. To Washington State now, where we are learning more about Travis Decker and his struggles with mental health as the man is suspected of killing his 3 young daughters and remains on the run for 10 days now. Whitney Decker, Travis's ex-wife, reportedly told police that Travis, a 32-year-old Army veteran, was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, a serious mental illness that could be linked to his military duty. Her lawyer released a statement saying Decker showed no red flags of abusive or violent behavior, but had recently tried to get emergency veterans services help, to no avail. Whitney Decker was not informed of her ex-husband's failed attempt to get that emergency help from the VA. She said she would not have let their 3 girls go on an unsupervised visit with him had she known. Decker's accused of killing his 3 young daughters at a campsite in central Washington before disappearing into the wilderness. Police say Decker's truck was found near the campground, blood samples recovered from his vehicle. Decker's dog was also found nearby, but Decker himself was nowhere to be found. Federal authorities have now taken command of the multi-agency manhunt. Authorities tonight are narrowing their search to a remote region right in the middle of the state. It is a couple hours drive from the campground where the bodies of his daughters were found on June 2nd. Now, Decker is skilled in wilderness survival. Authorities say he could live in the woods for weeks on his own, but prosecutors say he also combed Google in the days before his disappearance with searches that included "How does a person move to Canada?" and "Jobs Canada." Bobby Chacon, former FBI investigator, joins me now. And Bobby, just literally in the commercial break before this segment came on, I got this press release. He apparently was spotted. Law enforcement have tracked the subject to Blewett Pass. It's an area, it's about 2 hours east of Seattle, right smack in the middle of the state. Apparently they received a tip from a hiking party who stated they spotted a lone hiker who appeared to be ill-prepared for the trail and for the weather conditions and appeared to be avoiding others. They're asking people in this area to lock their doors and call police if they see anything. Maybe they're on the verge of capturing him.
Well, Elizabeth, sure, we all sure hope so. I mean, this is a dangerous individual who's very much in need of, mental health services, and obviously to be caught and brought to justice for if allegedly if he did these murders. And so, yeah, it's very important for the public safety and for this individual himself that he be brought into custody.
Yeah, these Google searches tell us a lot. It sounds like he might have been trying to make his way up north to Canada. I'm not sure if he's going in the right direction or not, but he appears, if this recent sighting is a true one, that he's right smack in the middle of Washington State.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit troubling if you combine that with the murders, if he was in fact planning to kill these 3 little girls and then escape. Of course, he could have been searching for jobs in Canada because he was just wanted to get away, get up there. Yeah, but so we don't know that yet. They may know that. There may be other searches that they're not releasing. But we don't know yet. But it certainly looks like it could be, certain premeditation. It goes to premeditation if he was looking for an escape route to Canada because he was planning on doing this for a while.
They've talked a lot about the fact that he's military training and would know how to survive in the wilderness. But again, the hikers who think they spotted him say he didn't look like he was prepared for weather or for hiking.
Yeah, I mean, this could be him, or it could be somebody else. I mean, this could be somebody that's out there unprepared for it, and it's hard to say that if whether or not this is the guy. I mean, we certainly hope it is because they've closed in on him, but it may not be. I mean, look at the police chief in the Midwest. He was caught after a couple of days, and he was only a mile and a half from the prison where he escaped. So sometimes they surprise us. But we sure hope that this is the individual and that they're closing in on him.
Yeah, given the mental health history, the fact that he reached out to the VA for help was denied because there was a waiting list due to a lack of resources at that particular VA. Really troubling details in this story. All right, Bobby, we'll be following it. I'm sure we're going to have you back to talk about it as well. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
Coming up for us, Los Angeles is bracing for a fifth night of protests. Up next, Chris Cuomo joins me live to discuss. All right, I'm joined now by Chris Cuomo. Chris, your show is moments away. These protests, tonight, this was the first time today we've really seen skirmishes break out in the afternoon versus nighttime when we see the real agitators come out of the woodwork. Looks like we're set to see another night of action.
The freaks come out at night.
Yeah.
As we learned in the disco. But look, we know what's going on here. Okay, it's not a surprise that it's L.A., given the population of that city. I don't think that it's a surprise that the administration targeted that city. I think it wanted this confrontation. I think it wins this confrontation. I think optically this is good for the president, and it is a great distraction from what the media, the right, and the left don't really want to talk about because it wasn't rating. The budget, the tariffs, how we deal with the problems that affect the many. So that's where I'm bringing it back to with the simple suggestion up at the top that there's a reason I'm not in Los Angeles right now. As we both know, that would usually be where you would find me. There's a reason I'm not there.
Yeah, it has overtaken what is a real battle happening right now on Capitol Hill. Yeah. It wiped off the whole Elon Musk kerfuffle, thank God, right out of the news coverage. So it has taken over, and the optics of this do feed into exactly what President Trump, I think, wants out there. So
stupid play for the Democrats.
Yeah.
They should be in the business of better and making cases who's going to lose on Medicaid, who's going to lose on the tax bill, and how they. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.